sliding back to the dark days where you could speak, but your freedom after that speech will not be guaranteed. But also, how do we draw the line with speech and responsible speech? Is there anything even of that sort? So that if somebody insults somebody, says something defamatory about them, is the remedy to bring in the police? Just this week or last week, there was news of a certain social media activist who had been picked up by the police and actually charged with criminal offenses because he said certain things that Stonebwoy and his family found offensive. And then we've heard from the NPP on Abronye, on Esando, and a number of people who have been arrested. And the arrest of Webkit didn't quite make the news, or didn't quite make the kind of criticism that we've seen with the system when it comes to people affiliated with the NPP. So the political parties, of course, are speaking, but they are speaking for their members. They are not speaking out for people like Webkit who may not identify with their political party, but who are caught up in the same quagmire. But we've also seen the same thing with the NPP and the NDC, whenever power has changed hands. A number of people, NDC functionaries, officials, were arrested under what I choose to describe as the obnoxious false speech laws. Is it time to change it now? And where do we strike the balance? We connect on these important matters right after these messages.
The other day, I visited Kwaku at his spunky new office to congratulate him on opening his business. And man, was I impressed. The business is just moving quick. The sales, customers, everything is just working seamlessly. The secret? He said,
it's MTN Business Broadband. In this fast-paced environment, we need fast and reliable internet to support all business types. No laggy online meetings, great download and upload speeds, impeccable business management systems, all inclusive. I mean, you can have it all.
Sharp! I signed on immediately.
To enable your business stay ahead and stay connected, make sure you're signed on to the best internet made just for businesses. MTN Business Broadband. Sign up today on broadband.mtn.com.gh and manage your account on my MTN app. Call 0244 308 111 for more information.
MTN.
Hello CEOs, Ghana's foremost business platform marks 10 years of leadership impact. Join the 10th Ghana CEO Summit and Expo on Thursday, 28th May 2026 from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Kempinski Hotel Accra. The summit is themed accelerating Ghana's economic transformation, driving bold reforms through leadership, technology, and industrialization. Tagline, from vision to action. His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, President of the Republic of Ghana, will attend as special guest of honor and officially launch the CEO Government Compact 2026. Highlights include presidential CEO dialogue, masterclasses, panels, brand expo, CEO profiles, networking. Registered now at GhanaCEOSummit.com. Call 054-639-1970 or email info@GhanaCEOSummit.com. Powered by CEO Network Ghana in partnership with Deloitte, PwC, EY, GIPC, University of Ghana, Media General, and the Multimedia Group. The 10th Ghana CEO Summit and Expo, a decade of leadership impact. T&C supply.
Cast your mind back to 2022. The prices were rising. The stress was high. Every liter of fuel felt like a sacrifice. Do you remember who stepped forward first? When others were comfortable with high prices, Star Oil chose you. We cut our own profits so you could keep your AC on, keep your engines running, and keep your life moving without the heavy burden. We gave you room to breathe when things felt tight. Because of you, our star savers, we became number one. Today, the pumps are a battleground. Others are finally cutting prices because they have to. But Star Oil, we do it because we want to. Don't just chase a price, remember a friendship. We were there for you then, and with new innovations coming your way, we are here for you now. Star Oil, still quality and affordable fuels for all.
If you want quality, this be where you belong. Hey, tough, hey, strong. Oh, Ghana shout and sing the song. When the sun they hot, syntax no break when the rain they fall. Still no shake, build Engineers they choose and plumbers they prove and any project you they start. Every mosquito started run away. Oh, come on, tonton preko. Sasso, me se come tonton preko. Oh, come on, tonton preko. Sasso, come tonton preko. Nani sham ne die, demo stronko.
This advert is FDA approved.
Welcome back to Ghana Connect.
All pirates, yes, they rabbi, sold I to the merchant ships. Minutes after they took I from the bottomless pit, but my hand was made strong. By the hand of the Almighty, we forward in this generation.
The studio guests, they are all speaking freely. Are they security men standing outside to?
Well, they say freedom of speech. What about freedom after speech?
I am saying that if you speak recklessly, be rest assured you won't sleep in your house.
These songs of freedom, 'cause all I ever have, redemption songs.
This is so stone age stuff. I don't even understand why everybody justify this, really. And then whoever has sanctioned this will be shamed and release the gentleman immediately. How did they even get the guy into the BNI, wherever it's being kept? Now this is becoming like a complaint. Even the Gestapo military people don't do these kinds of things anymore.
How long shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look?
But don't use pre-trial detention as punishment. No, the law frowns on it. Particular law. Like I said, if you read Oku versus the Republic and you hear Domlevo, Daniel Domlevo on these matters of bail, etc. Look, it's time for us to reform that part of the law. Okay. It's time. The Supreme Court, if you want to go to Supreme Court, it will take too long. But if the political actors are interested, within 30 days, we'll remove this Section 95, Section 96, subsection 5, C and D. We'll remove them quickly.
Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free.
Big conversations coming up, and I'm excited to introduce to you my guest connecting with me. As always, Manasseh Azuri. Manasseh Awoni Azuri, a journalist. He knows a lot about free speech. In fact, he's trending some picture B of him wearing a shirt that says, freedom of speech is not an excuse to be stupid. We'll see what he thinks about that. So, Manasseh Azuri Awoni, it's good to have you connect with us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Have you seen that picture of yours that is trending?
Yes.
With a description on it. Yeah, brilliant. And then, Aaron, a Siedu entry, Alampine. It's good to have you connect with us.
Thanks for having me, but why do you add that Alampine?
Well, that's what the people know you for. Somebody texted and said if we have you on, we should introduce you as Alampine. And then Austin Wood. Austin Wood is such a strong voice in the media. He's been doing this for decades. And so he has a lot of experience with some of these arrests. The memory is there. Austin Wood, it's good to have you connect with us.
Thank you very much, and good evening to your listeners and viewers, and also to my fellow panel members as well. A pleasure to be here.
Brilliant. And then in studio, I have Kwaku Asante. He speaks for the Lands Ministry today. That's not what he's doing here. He's a former journalist, and I'm not sure he has been arrested before by by national security or anybody for doing his work as a journalist when he used to be with us. But Shandoff, it's good to have you connect with us.
Yeah, cool. The
So,
pleasure
so,
is all
so let
mine.
me start with you in the studio. Then I'll go to my colleagues on Zoom. Why can't people have their freedom of speech? Why can't people speak out? Even rambunctious criticism, insults, even. As much as we all frown on that, why should that be criminal?
Well, so first off, good evening to your very good self and to the rest of our audience who are connected on this particular platform. Over the past couple of days, I should say, I've had cause to listen to the array of opinions that have emerged following certain recent arrests that were effected in respect of, speech-related offenses, if I have to put it that way. And I've observed the public commentaries as well. I've examined and diagnosed all the arguments, and I'm inclined to be on the page of those who have argued strongly that yes, free speech should be enshrined. However, it ought to be done responsibly, and basically that is my stance on the matter, which I wish to advance in the course of this conversation. Kwaku, everybody in this country, and indeed every part of the world, has the right to communicate freely as and how they wish. They have the opportunity and the privilege, and they should be given the right to express their views, amplify their sentiments, express their grievances, ventilate if they want to, in any way, in any shape, or in any form. But it must not be a borderless and measureless endeavor. It must not be an enterprise that does not have any boundaries, because the moment you remove the boundaries, effectively you are tripping into excesses. And so in as much as it might be an inalienable human right, as it were, or it could be something that of course should be afforded everybody, we also have to pay attention to some of the excesses which actually can, as it were, distort the whole environment and ecosystem where that right even is being expressed in. So for instance, let me give you a very brief scenario as part of my preliminary comments. Let's assume, for instance, that we were moving into an election, all right? We're going to have a fiercely contested national election like we've always been doing. And then somebody in a very volatile constituency or in a place where violence often emanates comes out to say that I am a member of Party A, and I am declaring that if Party B wins in this particular enclave, we are going to ensure that all the supporters of Party B are subsequently killed. Let's assume somebody comes to, make a comment of this nature. Yes, in the interest of he expressing his sentiments or, as it were, his perspective, we could say, okay, the other person is cleared to do so. But what is going to be the consequence of such a comment? What is going to be the impact? What is going to be the repercussion? I do not think we can observe such a comment and allow the person to go scot-free, all because the person has a certain inherent natural right to express his views as and when he or she wants to. So basically all I'm saying is that, look, I support, free speech. Indeed, I think while we were working together, there were so many times I've had cause to write a number of articles on an array of issues, express my views as I want to and all of that. But all of that must be within a certain regime and under a certain border and lens of scrutiny and guidance and measure. Otherwise, one day somebody can say something, as we have seen in other jurisdictions, that can now, as it were, affect the whole gains that we've been able to chalk in our democratic trajectory. So yes, free speech is a must. However, it must be guided, it must be regulated, and it must be done with recourse to responsibility accordingly.
Yeah, Manasseh, I guess you agree with Shandoff, given the picture you were wearing. Only that I just feel like it seems like it's a laudable position to take, free speech, responsible speech, but I just feel like it's a bit cynical that there's still something behind that. But given what you wore, I wonder what you make of the point Shandoff has just made, Manasseh.
Well, I generally agree that the irresponsible use of free speech can curtail free speech. So I'm a believer of that. But what is happening is not exactly what they want us to believe. When this debate starts, everybody moves towards threats. But many people have been arrested just because they made allegations. And these people were not charged because they threatened somebody. They said they published false news. And both sides of the political divide weaponize people who insult, lie, and vilify as their heroes. The NDC has their heroes. The NPP has its own heroes when it comes to those who insult. If you take Abronye didn't start insulting today. Throughout the NPP's regime, when we spoke about this thing, they always told us, well, we cannot say press freedom was absolute. Did anybody ever pick up Abronye? It didn't happen. Why? His party was in power. Kennedy Japan actually threatened someone on TV and the person was later shot and killed. What happened to him? Nothing. The point I'm making is, let's shift away from playing the ostrich and face the reality. Nobody, I sitting here, I don't support, I'm a victim of some of those attacks. I don't support it. But the question is, who determines what crosses the line? And who determines or who makes the rule that once you are in government, you are never going to be touched? So the point I've been trying to make is this. They are using this law of publishing false news to oppress and target forces of dissent. Somebody made a comment that Ashanti regional minister was involved in Galamsey. The person was arrested and detained. The question is, was this an irresponsible speech? If you have no evidence, it is irresponsible. Should we allow that? No. Is there a remedy to that in our laws? Yes. The Ashanti regional minister sued this person for defamation. So why should the police criminalize this thing? I don't subscribe to insults. But if you insult someone, you say something about them that is not true, it should be a civil case. And then the current President Mahama, when he was in opposition, he actually wrote an article. He wrote a letter to then President Akufo-Addo, just as I have written to him. And I quote, President Akufo-Addo, you cannot continue to oppress the people, criminalize speech, when these matters are essentially civil in nature. If you feel offended by them. He cited comments made by Captain Smart, Bobia Ansah, and others. Those comments were as offensive as those that are uttered now. The president we have today said, these are what? Civil in nature. Don't criminalize speech. I agreed with him then, and I agree with him today. The solution is not to criminalize and target members of the NDC. Some people are saying the issues have increased just because people have become reckless within this period. No. There are people also reckless and going on air and spewing garbage who belong to the NDC. Some are celebrated as their heroes, but nobody is going to touch them just the way Abronya was not touched. So my point is, let us discourage this. The only way to discourage this is when both the NDC and NPP stop promoting and rewarding such waywardness. Somebody yesterday was before the cameras calling former President Akufo-Addo and Bawumia the word was thieves. There are videos of that. The person is in a ministerial position today. Someone who thinks that, okay, the best way to be recognized is to go and insult will be encouraged to do it. So both parties are doing it, but what we are having now is that we are getting, we have a system when if somebody is in opposition, they cry foul. When they get into government, they use the law of publishing false news to criminalize speech. There was a journalist who was arrested by the police, and all that this person did was to publish a portion of Anas Arimio Anas's video that he took. They arrested this guy, detained him, how to even get him bail was very difficult. And then eventually they charged him, took him to court. Recently, he said, well, the case was discontinued.
Yeah.
But you already punished this person.
Yeah. Interesting. Manasseh, hold it there for me because I like the point you make about the political parties and how they seem to be weaponizing up this. And this is why I bring in Austin, because of how you've followed Ghanaian politics. So really, this is just about the NDC and MPP weaponizing these laws against themselves. Of course, every now and then, ordinary Ghanaians who do not publicly identify with both parties get caught in it. But essentially, this is just the MPP and NDC who have come to some sort of a gentleman agreement, if you want to call it, and say, listen, as for these laws, we'll keep it on our books. When it is time to use it against you, we will use it against you. When we go on the other side and use it against us, we'll complain about it. Just a vicious cycle. Is that how you see it?
Thank you very much, Kwaku. I don't think so. And first of all, I would want to put this on record. My stance on this is no sane society or democracy should criminalize speech. So that is my stance on this. But I have a problem when we make it seem Ghana is for MPP and NDC. MPP and NDC have not arrested anybody. It is the Ghana police. So they should be the ones we speak to. Because if we are not careful, right, people will commit what we call atrocities against citizens and they would get away with it. And that is where I have the biggest problem with how we have discussions in our society. First of all, I don't think that insults are criminal. The only time insults are criminal in Ghana is when it's against a chief. And the Supreme Court in Ampofu versus Attorney General 2011 has already ruled on that. Because Nana was a former paramount chief. He says that portions of the chieftain to come to his palace and you refuse, you have committed a crime and you can be prosecuted, is unconstitutional. Again, he says the part of the Chieftaincy Act that says that if you insult a chief, it's a criminal offense, is also unconstitutional. The Supreme Court agreed with the first part on the invitation and says that if a chief invites you, you can decide not to go and you've not committed any crime. So that part of the Chieftaincy Act is unconstitutional. But the Supreme Court ruled that if you insult a chief, that is a crime. It was maintained in our laws. So I'm saying this. There is a difference between somebody insulting and the law which says publication of false news. Which one is the police arresting people on?
But I guess the big question, Austin, is for some of the arrests, is that some of the mere publication of false, some of the so-called false news people have published, so that if somebody says Doomsaw is back, the police deems it false. And now this person has to come and prove that Doomsaw is back. I mean, it's almost like you are turning the criminal justice system on its head for this accused person to rather come and prove that Doomsaw is back. I mean, some of them
exactly.
is really a challenge.
So what you have just said is it is not people insulting who are being arrested. Because I don't think anybody has been arrested for insult. If that happens, it is against the law. That is why I found it strange when somebody was in 2022 jailed by the cause for apparently saying something about President Akufo-Addo, which people deemed it to be insulting. Now, the publishing of false news, right, is a very delicate matter. Because where I find myself as a media personality, I'm asking myself, at what point will this be weaponized against the media and ordinary citizens in this age of plurality of social media? It is a very thin line. And this is my view. I think that thing should be repealed. I believe that the best way to counter false information is to put out correct information. So we have to sanitize our system so that false information can be countered with the correct information. If we don't do that and we rely on the police to say that Kwaku Asante has said something on Joy FM, has Austin Wood has published something on X, somebody Manasseh has said something on TikTok, we believe that it is false information. So you arrest him, take him to court, he is remanded and all that. That is weaponizing that thing. So we need to take that out of our books. That publishing of false information. I believe the best way for we as a people is to say the way to deal with false information is not to criminalize speech, but to counter it with correct information.
Yeah, it's like this thing they say about the antidote to darkness is more sunshine. Please hold it there for me. Let me bring in a lamp because the MPP have been saying a lot, and I think there are those who would say that perhaps the MPPs just want an opportunity to galvanize their base because the MPP would have to state where they stand on some of the comments Abronye makes as a person. Do they, as a regional chairman and as a member of their national council, do they endorse those positions? Some of the things he says about sitting judges and the frequency of those comments, so that he has been in and out of these same troubles for so many times. And a lady threatens that she will kill the president, or it is a wish that the president dies, or invokes a curse or something like that. Of course, there's a big question about spirituality and its justiciability. We are not going there. But really, is the MPP, what really is the point there? Do you see where MPP is coming from when they make some of these demands and these claims?
So, Kwaku, thank you very much once again for the opportunity. I've listened to my colleagues on the line, and I would say I largely agree with them, except to say that I partly disagree with my brother in the studio, because when he explained the general position of whatever is happening, the exceptions that was brought up, now let's generalize the situation to inculcate everything. But I like how Manasseh put it out and disintegrate it for all of us to appreciate it. I've read a couple of articles from Manasseh on this subject matter, Kwaku, except to say that Manasseh brings out clearly the issues we must tackle. And Austin puts the icing on the cake. Why do I say so? When this arrest starts, or when this arrest keeps on going, the point over here is that both the MPP and the NDC will be at two extreme ends. It is Abronye who a certain NDC base are happy. It is, let's say, another person in the NDC, and likely that a certain portion of the MPP will be happy and fanning it out. But the real problem is what Austin brings out, Kwaku, is the Ghana Police Service. If we are dealing with these issues, we must thoroughly call them out, because they make these kinds of arrests to entice a certain party's base. And it will even interest you to know that some of these politicians do not even know about these arrests. And they continue and persistently do this to entice a certain base. Kwaku, you were asking me whether the MPP endorses the comment of Abronye and other political actors. I'm sure if there's an NDC person strictly here, you are going to ask the same question. There is a reason we give names. There is a reason I am called Aaron Asiedwentry, and there is a reason Manasseh Zuri has his name. And for that particular reason, you can attribute that this is how this person is speaking, and that is how the other person is speaking. But the truth over here is that the law does not go with whichever who is ascribed with a name A or name B. Today, I took a casual look to look at the 1992 Constitution Draft Committee report, particularly on Article 14. And probably, if you permit me, I will read. This is what Dr. S.K.B. Asante's committee stated, that a corollary to the right to life is the right to personal liberty. If the individual must have his or her life and enjoy it, then it is imperative that he or she is not subjected to arbitrary arrest. Accordingly, the committee proposes that no person should be deprived of his or her right to personal liberty, except in accordance with procedures established by law. And in particular, no one may be arbitrarily arrested or detained. The exceptions are stated clearly in Article 14. and it has been numbered in black and white or written in black and white for us. What we are seeing today, Kwaku, is not what is written in the law. For me, if we dance around this conversation and probably how people want to center it MPP NDC, I can only promise you that the MPP would come to power again, and it's the worst of it will happen again for us to speak about this. I believe Manasseh is listening to me. I would implore him. His articles are fine. I think there is another article he must write centering this conversation on Ghana Police Service and calling them out. It appears that they do this and the NDCs or the political actors in the system do not even check how they are even leading them to. You ask that whether the MPP is charging their base or galvanizing their base. If that is even the case, then it is this arrest that is putting them together, which is no fault of theirs.
Yeah, interesting. So I like the point, Shandoff, that Alampine makes, that a lot of these things are, we cannot say for sure if some politician is not behind it, calling the shots, calling some police officers and saying do this, do that. We cannot say that. We don't know that for sure. But so it could well be that these are some overzealous police officers, overzealous national security operatives who do some of these things. And politicians sometimes think they are so busy with the other so-called weighty matters of national issues. And then they leave these things, and these are the things that make you... In the whole of this week, everybody has been talking about arrest of Abronye. When you could be talking about Ghana's exit from the IMF. You've been talking about it, but it's been overshadowed by the what some call the unjustified detention of Abronye, the bail and all of those things. So is it time for political parties, for the people in government, to actually pay attention to some of these things and take the right decisions before some of these actions just take them under?
Well, sometimes...
Can I say something?
Manasseh, please do, then stand up for coming.
Yes, I just wanted to make a point about the politics. In this country, we know that separation of power, independence of institutions, they exist on paper, but in practice, they don't. It is not just coincidence, it's not just by accident that when NDC was in opposition, almost all the people they arrested, the police arrested for recklessness, were NDC people and journalists critical of the MPP. It is also not coincident that as we sit here, the target seems to be MPP and then critics of the government. In 2022, February 11, when President Mahama was writing that letter, he didn't target the police, he didn't mention it, but he wrote to Akufo-Addo. And he knew why he was writing it. The conditions then remained the same. Who appoints the IGP? I can bet you, if the IGP arrested Sami Jemfi today and detained him, that he published falsehood. Tomorrow he goes to arrest some judge and detain some judge, that some judge has published falsehood. I'm not sure he will live another day to arrest a third person. So the point I'm making is, let us not absolve the police, but the buck stops with whoever appoints the police. If I were the president of the republic, and I'm against criminalization of speech, as President Mahama told us in 2022 that he was against it, and I appoint someone, and that someone is criminalizing speech, I would call that person and say, IGP, talk to your people. If the Ashanti regional minister thinks that someone has published falsehood about him and it is not true, let him go and sue for defamation. That's what our laws say. It is not your duty as the police to go and arrest the person, detain the person on behalf of the Ashanti regional minister. This is what I would tell the IGP. And if the IGP fails to do it, I would get someone else to replace him. So the reality is that we cannot say that the police should also not be blamed, but if you look at how things happen in this country, we cannot absolve the politicians and those whose command the police almost always obey.
Shandoff.
Yeah, Kwaku, I think I'll basically articulate the very same points I advanced at the start of this particular conversation, that indeed free speech is one that should be encouraged.
Then it means you are a candidate for arrest when Dr. Mamiya becomes president. If this thing doesn't stop, and one day, because sometimes you can be very rambunctious in your criticism, you can be very tough in your opinion.
But
you say something, they will come and pick you.
Yes, from 20, during the period
that's
of
why the NEC said they were resetting.
Hold on briefly. During the period of the NPP's regime, governance, I should say, actually, there were a couple of times where I had cause to critique certain government policies and express my opinions on it. Nobody had cause to come and arrest or interrogate me whatsoever, because I believe I did that within the perimeters of responsibility and civic culture. That's the point. It's the manner in which you as it's where you express those views. And sometimes I think we should just not be simplistic and simplify the issue and just say, oh well, we shouldn't be attacking publication of false news. It is not just the labeling of the content as false news. I think we should also be interested in the implications of that supposed false news. So for instance, and permit me to import your personality for this particular example. If tomorrow somebody were to publish that Kwaku Asante is actually, think of it, somebody is publishing, a respected journalist like yourself, but somebody is alleging that you are actually a spy for a terrorist group.
I sue them for defamation.
Hold on. Now it may, under the circumstances, it may pass as false news, and therefore you can use civil procedure to address it. But we also have to advert our minds to the implication of that publication, that you, if I were living in the same neighborhood with you, and I were coming home, it's 6 p.m. and I saw the publication, oh, that this my neighbor journalist is actually part of a terrorist group. Okay, I may be scared. Under the circumstances, I could say today I won't sleep home. I could alert the rest of the people in the vicinity that, look, do you know our neighbor Kwaku? And so because of that effect, exactly, and they may even come and pounce on you, like you're rightly saying. So it is not just the label of the content being false. If that were the case, no, it's about the implication of the supposed false news. So again, I'll recline on my earlier comment that, look, as for criticism, and my brother Alan Pine, for example, I listen to him. He criticizes the government. Has anybody ever had cause to bring him up for next interrogation? No, he will not be next. He comes sometimes. He comes out very strong, but still it is within the remits of respect and decorum and courtesy, and that is how public discourse really should be. Yeah. But we should not, under the circumstances of us,
if they arrest me to be Sando, who
be passing comments that are reckless, throwing invectives and vitriol here and there, all in the name of free speech. Then when the persons are asked to assist with investigations, we begin certain lectures that I think some of the time are largely exaggerated. Look, criticize the government if you want to. The President of the Republic, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, has had cause to say that, look, in his governance, for example, everybody is welcome to throw in a piece of constructive criticism or otherwise, but there are limits to it. So if somebody, for example, comes out to say that the President of the Republic, for instance, I'm just saying, someone comes to say that the President of the Republic is a criminal. Now, or says that the President of the Republic is involved in, let's say, for instance, a terrorist syndicate whatsoever. It may be false news, but what is the implication? There are investors, there are people who may ascribe credibility to that content. Indeed, there are people who may be unsettled. Are we thinking about those people? So if now the appropriate security bodies come and say that, look, you made this particular comment, yes, in the civil outlook it may be false, but maybe you may also know something we don't know. Come and assist with investigations. How is this supposed to be troubling?
Austin, so do you think the conversation is a little bit more nuanced, as in the public should separate those ones that are obnoxious, just terrible, but there are also certain speech or the certain things people say that the police perhaps may be in their right to pick those people up, come and assist with the investigation, or arrest them with the orders on criminal.
I agree with that. And I'll give a classical example. But first of all, I think that I have a problem with how Manasseh wants the president to be the one doing this. No, I disagree. You see, if we leave, Ghana is not for MPT and NDC. So Manasseh, the next time the police arrest an NDC member for committing a crime, we will be okay if the president calls the police to also leave the said person. Let us not leave everything to the president, because we can have a bad and somebody who is a president who does not respect the laws. That is why state institutions must work. The police is not there for the president. The police is there to maintain law and order. So if the police does something, they should do the right and legal thing. The president should not be calling the police that you have done something, leave the person. No, I disagree. If we do that, we will open the floodgates, and the president then will start calling the police to also, the reverse is also true, to stop arresting people close to him or his party who have been committing crime, like Galamsey. Now to your question, and Pakwesi has raised an issue. I am bringing this to the fore. You see, let us not think that it is every publication of false news or somebody attacking somebody that can be dealt with by defamation. And there's a classical example. In the infamous Amina Yuton Bass, nobody could have sued for defamation. So what happened with that? When Amina put that story out on Adom FM, if the NPP officially had not organized a press conference to say that Ghana was not safe, security was bad under President Mills, who had promised that we would be safe under his presidency, now a bus from Accra to Wa had been stopped on the road for 48 minutes. Passengers have been allowed to have sex with each other. Nobody would have talked about it. So in that case, what do we do? That was a classical example. Even though Amina was put before the law courts for publication of false news, which did not meet the standards and she was let free, I'm asking myself, in such situations, how do we deal with it? Because you cannot sue Amina for defamation. The police felt that she was causing fear and panic. I think that, like you have said, it is more nuanced. But for insults, Pakwesi, please, insults are not a crime if it is not against the chief. I can insult the president. You see, let us not bring culture and custom when we are discussing legal matters. Insulting the president, insulting my father, insulting a man of God, it's not a crime. The only insult which is a crime is against a chief, and the Supreme Court has ruled on that. So if we say that somebody use invectives, and so what?
Okay, Kwaku,
if I use invectives to in discussing the president, I have not committed a crime.
Absolutely, my brother. I just want to come in briefly here. Kwaku, if you would recall, I sat on this same platform, I think some 2-3 years ago, and I made the same comment. I shared the same position that insults on their own do not constitute crimes. But I'm saying that we, and this is maybe an invitation for a debate. My brother, can we start, looking at the implication of these insulting comments? Let me just cite a 30-second scenario. So let's assume, for example, okay, we are all living in a particular community. A member of Party A comes out to, abuse very strongly the leader of, Party B. Okay, so a member of Party A comes out to insult the leader of Party B. Yes, we all say that insults are not criminal, so we should let the person be. But if that insult, all right, has the propensity of triggering the other members of the other party in a way that can distort the peace in that enclave and generally affect public order, should we not be concerned? Because you see, insults are harsh words. When they are received, they trigger emotions. When emotions are stirred, consequently, people may end up acting violently. Violent conduct can distort public order. So you see the chain of reactions. And so we shouldn't just isolate the insults and think, okay, well, it is just an insult. It is the implication for me. So I'm saying we should begin to look at the issues more broadly.
You will tell me an insult, I will not feel slighted. You will tell Manasseh you feel slighted. That is the absurdity you want to create. Because if an insult, Austin Wood, you tell me something and I don't feel slighted to cause chaos, but you tell another person it causes chaos, how will we deal with that? So we say that it has to be an insult that would cause chaos. Let us not bring this absurdity which will create a chaotic scene. Insults are not a crime. Full stop.
Austin Wood, can I just add something to what you said? Just to ask Kwaku a question. Is he saying that within this period, it is only MPP members who insult on radio? A few weeks ago, the MPP released a press statement concerned about someone who is insulting former President Kufuor. Within a section of the NDC, this person is treated as a hero. So if you are to say insults and repercussions and what they could mean, are you saying that it is only MPP members who use those invectives and foul languages and all those things?
Manasseh, absolutely not. Indeed, I have not.
Why are they never arresting the NDC people?
I have not limited it to NDC or NPP or any political party for that matter. You will recall that I said that this is a conversation that perhaps all of us in the national interest maybe need to have, that insults in themselves are provocative. When people's emotions are stirred and provoked, consequently they may engage in certain acts that could distort public order. The reason for which maybe we need to pay attention to the whole conversation about, okay, an insult is not a crime, so if somebody comes to insult you, ignore. No, for the fact that an insult may, or certain levels and realms of insults could trigger certain emotions which may consequently trigger actions that can be violent and distort public order. We should maybe begin as a people to have a more realistic conversation about it.
I disagree.
If you were to Manasseh, a second.
Ekotokofan teasing has to folk at the stadium. It's provocative. Are we going to talk about that as well?
No.
Let's stop this chaos and absurdity we want to introduce.
My brother, it is not absurdity.
Shatawale fan teasing Stonebwoy for not winning Artist of the Year. It can be provocative.
No, but teasing.
What kind of absurdity do we want to create in this society?
Let us not pretend. Let's not pretend as though we can't distinguish between a heated, vitriolic political remark and a regular banter.
No, but you get the point Austin makes. That, I mean, between Shatawale fans and Stonebwoy fans, the chaos that can come
may veer into an absurdity that we will not be able to control. But again, there are certain comments and remarks that on prima facie, just on the face of it, we can know that no. As for this one, let us be realistic. Kwaku, I mean, you are my brother. We play. There are things I can tell you today, but there are also things I can tell you, and even me, I know that I'm provoking you. Let's be real about it.
Okay, please hold it.
So if I say that NDC people, are stupid, right, and people are provoked by and to fight, somebody can say that Shatawale is a terrible artist. It will also provoke. Let's this chaos we want to introduce.
Yeah, brilliant. Austin, please hold there for me. Alampai, I know you want to make an intervention, but I also want you to box it in with the sections on publication of false news and offensive conduct. I mean, really, is it time to just take it off our books? Is it time?
Kwaku,
we should take it off.
Okay. Kwaku, I should come in.
Please do.
So let me be quick to add to what Austin and Manasseh has already said to my very good brother Sandov. You should be aware that in the celebrated case of Alassane Kotokoli versus Moro Hausa and another, Edusej just admonished all of us to that sentiment has no place in the administration of law. If we allow sentiment to be in the administration of law, it will stifle the development of our legal jurisprudence. Now, let me be quick to even ask Sandov this question. Mugabe on TV XYZ was insulting Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh. He chose the route of suing him for defamation. But Mugabe has not been arrested. But a couple of people associated with the MPP has been arrested. I'm not even interested in doing the MPP NDC politics. But it is clear that insult in any way or shape or form cannot be a criminal offense. It cannot be. Now, back to the main, the first argument we were making before I address whether we should repeal or not. To Manasseh, I agree with him that Article 58(1) tells us that executive authority is vested in the president. Ghana Police Service is a body under the executive arm of government. If there is anyone who is the biggest beneficiary of the peace we enjoy in this country, it is President Mahama. If there is any mayhem, let me not even wish for. If there is any coup, he suffers more than I do. And so if the buck stops with him, then he should be able to call in the one he appointed as an IGP, that where his men is going is problematic. Let me come back to Manasseh again. Senior, Article 200 of our Constitution, Clause 3 says that the police duty is to maintain law and order. Reason I call that you need to release another article on the police is that in as much as their head is appointed by the president, they have a sacred duty in the Constitution to maintain law and order. Where you choose to maintain law and order in a very biased way, it is indefinitely or it is invariably injustice you are creating. It is invariably injustice you are creating in the society. And as such, I wish there would be another article on them, because I concede to the fact that you write better than I do in the space. So I'll concede to that fact and admonish that you do one on them in particular, because they enjoy these trends. Because when they arrest one person and the person is an NDC person, automatically the MPP are happy. Then when it goes the other way, arrest an MPP person, the NDC automatically becomes happy. Now back to whether we should repeal or not. I've read the provision carefully today. To me, this is my personal position. I believe it should be rather amended and probably put a higher threshold on it for the arrest. But let's not forget, laws are made for people and not people for laws. Laws are made for people and not people for laws. If we are to put a higher threshold on it as to if the said false statements would be leading to some grave action or whatsoever, then that person can be arrested or he can be criminal. Because even when in thought, when somebody makes a silly joke and that leads to someone even going through any medical condition, there is a remedy for the person in thought. And so I believe that it should rather be amended to place a higher threshold. But it is human beings that are going to apply these laws. It is likely that it is going to be abused. But if it is amended and not abused, since laws are made for the people, we can maintain it. But if it is amended and abused, then we can consider repealing it. I want it to be amended and a higher threshold should rather be placed rather than leaving it in the current form, which is in a blanket form that anyone who chooses to interpret any falsehood in any shape or manner will just move ahead to arrest anyone.
Yeah, because I mean, if I look at the false publication law with the intent of causing fear and harm, the way I see it, I think it's a good law in and of itself, but it's just that the police are abusing it. For instance, if we are at the stadium watching a football and someone shouted, "There's a bomb," and people were running, and then it caused a stampede, that person clearly is caught up in that law. That I think that is the intent of the people who rule the law. Not that somebody sits on radio, makes a false claim about the president or about a certain popular person, a musician, and because they have a certain connection with the police, they can just give a call, or the police will just look at it and will set over zeal, just move in and go and pick those people up. It's strange. So, Manas, let's do this quick around the table. What do you think about these laws? To repeal, to amend, or you think these are good laws, like I think, just that they are being abused? And if they are being abused, perhaps the best thing to do is just take it off so that the police has nothing. In fact, while we are grappling with the Criminal Offence Act, the politicians surreptitiously inserted it into the Electronic Communication Act, and the police have been using that one also.
I think basically it is not the problem, it's not the law. And in my article, I cited an instance that we were told that there was an earthquake and everybody got out from their homes and everybody panicked. In such circumstances, if they got the person and charged this person under this law, I wouldn't have a problem. Austin mentioned this Amina Yutong-Ba's case, and a good example you mentioned about the stadium. The point is that they are abusing the law, and if you read Abronye's thing, until they even arrested and charged him, I didn't know Abronye said this thing. Many people hadn't heard about it, so who was panicking? So the point is the abuse. And let me also add that I've had cause to also write about the police. When the journalist was arrested, Halifax Ansado was championing that thing. When I heard about it, I actually took the police CID on. I have taken on the BNI on the arrest of Kofi Ofosun Cancer when they claimed that he was arrested to assist investigation where he alleged that there was corruption somewhere in the scholarship secretariat. So I have on a number of occasions held these bodies accountable, but the ultimate responsibility when they are misusing and abusing their powers and oppressing the citizenry, I think it is only fair that the head of the state who appoints these people, and let me just tell Austin Wood that I'm not in favor of the president directing the police who to arrest, but there is a consistent abuse of citizens' rights to free speech. And then it is only right, it doesn't have to be NDC or MPP, to call these people to order and say that, look, stop harassing the citizenry. This is the law. This is how it should be applied. And not just the police or the executive, but also the judiciary. I don't see how a judge who has gone to the law school, who has sworn an oath to do justice, would see charges such as this, those against Abronya, and still think that, look, this person has to be remanded. So I agree that all these other institutions have a role to play, but there is a bigger responsibility. And I believe that is the reason that in 2022, President or then candidate John Dramani Mahama had to write directly to the president of the state.
Interesting. Austin, let me give you a brief one on that. 30 seconds. I think when Alampine was making his point about to repeal or not to repeal, you said we should repeal. I want to hear you on that very briefly.
Yeah, I think that it should be off because, you see, I don't trust the politician. And if you leave this to them, the gentleman from the MPP side, right, is today he's saying this.
I can't hear.
5 years, 10 years down the line, he would be in the position of Pakwesi. Ghana is not for MPP and DC. It shouldn't be their views that determine what we do. If we think it shouldn't be them. If we leave it to them, they have their parochial interest. And they would always support when it favors them and speak against it when it's going against them. That is why I don't want us to leave it to MPP and DC. It should go off. Once it goes off, we don't have it to be for people to even abuse it, because I don't trust the people in charge to be able to apply this law in a fair and just manner.
Shandoff, briefly, to repeal or not to repeal this law, what should we do? You politicians, you'll be doing this to yourself. The next thing you know, you're in BNI custody and you're doing free Shandoff.
God forbid.
2032 or 2029, depending on what happens.
Kwaku Asante. Anyway, so I mean, I've made my point. It's very clear that free speech is already enshrined in the Constitution, and all of us are entitled to it. However, in the expression of that manifest right, I think recourse must be given to responsibility and the consequential effects of our comments on the general outlook and peacefulness of society. So yes, talk, engage as much, express your views as much, but if you are doing it, recourse should be given to the propriety of even the language itself, such that if at any time you speak and upon your own reflection you feel that, oh, look, I could have said XYZ better, you can even come out and then do the damage control so that nobody would have to invite you for questioning or interrogation, because the truth of the matter is that we shouldn't, I'm saying, pretend as if, well, when people speak, the words are not powerful. Words, for those of us who are, who advert our conduct to the dictates of the Bible, we would agree that, I mean, words are life, words are spirit, words have a certain influence, and so we shouldn't just say it is a right, it doesn't affect anybody. No, every word has an implication, and so for the fact that some of the words that we all use as citizens have the tendency of distorting public order, if at any point the security services in their independent mandates decide to invite anybody for questioning because of the implication of certain comments, I think we shouldn't overly politicize such conversation. That said, there shouldn't also be any form of excesses and arbitrariness whatsoever.
Interesting way to end the show. Thank you very much, Shandoff. Thank you very much, Manasseh Azuri. Thank you very much, Austin Wood. You brought fire to the show. And Alampine, yes, as always, I think somebody was saying on Facebook recently that you cannot have a 3-word conversation with Alampine without him quoting the law. He's really a great mind, really ready for the bench. We'll be looking forward to seeing it. Thank you very much. Tomorrow on Newsfile, 8 a.m. to 12 noon, Samson Ladi Anyadini and his guest will be dissecting this issue as well as a few other issues. So, your weekends is just supposed to be with Newsfile. You don't have to miss it. Thank you very much for doing the listening, all of you. My name is Kwaku Asante. A very good evening to you, Princess Irene, and also to all of you doing the listening. I think Irene was doing the listening, I don't think. And then also to, I think I missed the name. Enid. Okay, all of you have a great weekend. I'll see you again, same time.